Story, my BF asked me about swinging. I don't like it, but I also don't want to break up. Should I consider his suggestion to understand him better? Part 1. My name is Kara, F21. I have been dating my boyfriend, Leland, M27, for 3 years. We met at a party my friend was throwing during my senior year. Since then we have been largely inseparable. He gets a little jealous sometimes, but we do really love each other. I moved in with him 8 months ago. It was a little bit of an adjustment for the both of us, but I think we are getting the hang of it. I don't work right now, since I'm in nursing school. He has a pretty good job, so I do my best to take care of the apartment. I wish he helped out a little bit, but I kind of get it since I don't contribute anything financially. Like I said, for the most part our relationship is pretty good. He spoils me. I don't have a lot of my own disposable income, so I do appreciate that he likes to take me out and buy me things. Our sex life is really good and really active. We try out a lot of new things in the bedroom. We've always role-played scenarios, and I always thought these were just fantasies of his. We've done cheating scenarios, swapping scenarios, and stuff like that. Usually I'm pretending to be someone else. Which is fine, I'm not upset about that. The thing that hurt my feelings recently is that he said he missed dating sometimes. I know it's valid to feel that way. I have had a few moments over the last couple years where I wish I could just do some of the crazy things my friends do, but I don't because that's not what you do in a relationship. You got to prioritize your boyfriend, or girlfriend, and sometimes that means missing out on things. I tried to see where he was coming from and we didn't really talk about it, so I thought maybe it was just him being a little oblivious. That was until he started to talk about how he has these 2 coworkers that are in open relationships. I've met the one he has worked with for like 4 years. She, Abigail, is like mid-30s and married. When he brought her up the first time, it was just months into us dating and we talked about it like we were gossiping. Abigail does not hide the fact, and Leland has heard other people ask her questions about it, and she just answers them like she was talking about anything else. Leland hasn't brought her up very much at all, and usually if he does it goes like, you know what, Abigail had some guy, that was definitely not her husband, drop her off at the office today, and I totally saw her give him like the biggest kiss before she came in. Isn't that crazy? Could you even imagine? I mean, he says stuff like that, like he's gossiping. So I never really thought he was that into that. Then he met his new coworker, Madison, F26. She is also apparently in an open relationship. Leland talks about her a lot. The thing that has scared me is, when he talks about her, he says it like he's impressed. He talks about her like he has a crush on her and like he envies her lifestyle. It makes me feel kinda insecure sometimes. Then today happened. It was just a usual Saturday. We were having some sandwiches and chips for lunch, when he just asked me what my opinion of swinging was. I just went blank for a few moments. I finally said, I don't know, I've never really thought about it. Leland came back with, well, let's talk about it. I mean, you have to think about other guys sometimes, right? I said, sure, but not like real people. Like Ryan Gosling, not even from Class. Do you fantasize about people you know? He replied, no, not really, I mean I guess sometimes, but it doesn't mean anything. I guess I'm just saying, we're young. Now is kind of the time to do something like this, you know, have some fun before we settle down. I see how happy Abigail and Madison are, and think, maybe, we would enjoy it too. Madison, there it is. I got a little mad, so this is about Madison. He came back, she just makes a lot of good points. She says her and her husband are in an open relationship and that it has made them really close. They talk about everything now and it makes the intimacy amazing. I was getting more annoyed honestly, that seems like really personal information to know about someone you've only known for 4 months. What are you sharing with her? He got defensive, nothing, I talked about how great our relationship is, and she told me about hers, that's it, then she said we should give it a try, it'll make things even better. I don't know why you are getting so defensive. I just asked a question, you always say I should be open about my thoughts and feelings. I backed off a little, I do say that, I want him to feel like he can be safe around me. I watch all these TikToks about toxic behaviors in relationships. I'm not going to be the kind of girlfriend my boyfriend can't talk to about anything. I told him, okay, that's fair, we can talk about it some more, I just need a break right now, can we talk later tonight? He agreed, then we hugged, and each went to do our own thing. That was a few hours ago, and I don't really know what to do or say. I guess I will just listen. I don't know where this is coming from. I am half expecting that he will say that Madison and her husband want to swing with us. I, Seth M. 27, have been married to my wife, Madison F. 26, for 2 years. We have been together for 4 years. I wouldn't say anything about our relationship had been extraordinary in the grand scheme of things. We met through a mutual friend and just clicked. We dated for like 18 months, then moved in together and got engaged. We had a typical small wedding 6 months later. For the first 2 years of our marriage, everything seemed fine. We have both been focused on our careers and are doing pretty well. We still make time for each other and go on dates often. 4 or 5 months ago, she landed a managerial position in her field at a different company. 1 week later, she asked me for an open relationship. I was completely blindsided by that. We have never talked about anything like that before. When I asked where this was coming from, she talked about some married coworker named Abigail that is in an open relationship. Madison and her have been talking about this since her 3rd day working there. She starts trying to sell me on this with all these bullet points. Bring us closer together, new experiences, take our sex life to the max, meet new people. On initial approach, I was completely against this. I still am, yet I find myself in this stupid situation. When I first rejected it, she just accepted that and we moved on with our night. She didn't stop though, she brought it up again and again. In addition to just casual mentionings, she also began sending me stories out of our /non-monogamy and our /open marriage. These were all cherry-picked stories, and when I started exploring the subs on my own and sending back horror stories, she stopped doing this and said, we shouldn't be basing our marriage adventure on someone else. She also became super wife. Picking up my favorite snacks, doing more housework, trying to initiate sex all the time. I enjoyed that, but at the same time it's not as much fun when you know there is an ulterior motive. I've been asking her if there is someone she has in mind. She swears there is not, even getting angry the last time I asked. I don't really believe her. I know her new job has quite a few guys that work there. The company is also known for recruiting heavily out of the colleges, so it's likely a lot of guys right in our age bracket. Yet, she keeps pushing the same narrative of bringing us closer together, and having new experiences. I can kind of see the latter point. I am only her second boyfriend. She was in a 6-year relationship prior to our meeting, and had only been out of it for 3 weeks when we met. I'm slightly more experienced than her. Her being my 3rd girlfriend and 6th sexual partner. 2 months ago she managed to break me. I had stayed pretty steadfast in that I was apprehensive towards doing anything like this. The whole time from the initial approach until the 2-month mark she was really sweet and understanding, but also pushy. On this day, she went ultimatum. I said, I don't think I'll ever be ready to share you with others. She responded by saying, maybe we should take some time apart. That was like a jab in the face. Are you serious? She looked sad, and had a tear forming in one eye. Yeah, I just feel confined. I understand you don't want this, but I think I need to experience things. Maybe it isn't for us, but I want to try, and it seems you don't, so I guess we are at an impasse. I asked, you want a divorce? Am I just not enough for you anymore? She softened, never about you not being enough, I just want to be open to having experiences, meeting people, and not being bound by arbitrary rules and social norms. I don't want to divorce, I want you. I just feel like I need to explore this, and you don't want to. So maybe we should just take some time apart, not divorce, and see how we feel after a month or 2. This is where I caved, and ended up in the position I am now. I will give it a try. She immediately perked up, but can we take things slow? Can we come up with some basic rules? Madison clearly excited but trying to downplay. Yes, we can just take our time, thank you, I really think this will be a good thing in the long term. She then initiated sex, which I totally went along with. A few hours ago we had dinner with a couple we are supposed to swing with. I spent most of the dinner making small talk with Kara, a very attractive 21-year-old. She is very much my type physically, but this feels so weird. Madison and Kara's boyfriend Leland, who are co-workers by the way, were flirting and talking like this is second nature. I can't help but wonder if this was Madison's plan all along. He is a good-looking guy, so am I, but this all seems too convenient. Kara and I, however, seem a lot more apprehensive. She seems sweet, but there is definitely an awkwardness between us. Madison told me this couple wanted to swing with us, because we're all new to this. I have this feeling something is up though between my wife and this other guy. When I caved and told Madison we could try an open relationship, and that I'd like to take it really slow, she took that to mean like waiting until the next day was slow enough. I figured we would really talk about rules, read some books on E&M, ethical non-monogamy, and take things one step at a time. I got up the morning after I agreed a little later than usual. Madison had gotten up quite a bit earlier than usual. She had made us both Tinder profiles. Like really had put a lot of effort into both of them. I tried to tell her this was too fast, but she countered saying, it's just being ready for when we are ready. It could take months for either of us to match with anyone. We can take things slow, but now this part is done and we can start making matches while we figure this out. I accepted that response. However, within 24 hours she had about 20 matches. That number just kept growing and growing as the days went by. We would try to talk about how we wanted this to go, but she was also distracted by all the activity on her phone. Within 4 days she was already messaging directly with a few guys. 3 weeks later she had her first date set up. We had talked about the rules and boundaries we were going to have. She had agreed to all of them, although some of them only begrudgingly. First was the obvious one, use protection at all times. We also had a few more boundaries though, like not being physical with anyone on the first date. Being home by an agreed upon time or updating the other on changes. Giving each other details on our dates, like location, who the other person was, this was for safety, and making our relationship a priority. This meant no canceling plans with each other for time with others. A lot of these boundaries went out the window on her first date. We had only been open 3 weeks at this point. She went out and said she would be back by 11 p.m. She came home at 12:30 a.m. I was still up. I was pretty upset at the time. She had not so much as sent a text. She clearly had done something with this guy. She was trying to come on to me, but I was rejecting it. I was done at this point and told her that she was way later than she said. There was no communication at all, and I had no doubt she messed around with this guy. She didn't try to hide it, just kept giving me the excuse that things escalated and she got caught up in the moment. She promised to do better next time, and that now that she knows she can get excited, she will have a plan for managing that. Then she tried to get me to reclaim her. I was not interested and told her so. That's when she got pissed and told me she was getting in the shower. I slept on the couch that night. The next morning, I had decided I was out. I went into our bedroom and was packing a bag. She woke up to this and asked me what I was doing. I said, I'm leaving. She seemed alarmed and asked, where are you going? What do you mean you're leaving? I told her, I'm done, I'm going to my sister's. I'm not going to sit here around the house forever while you're updating. You put me onto those subs to convince me. Well, I read a lot more than just what you wanted me to. Here's the reality of most of those stories, and I'm sure this would be my reality as well. You'll sort through tons of matches and pick and choose who you want. I'll go months, maybe years without a match, then eventually we will divorce once the resentment gets too high. I'm just cutting to the end now. She interjected, you had the one match. I angrily replied, we both know that was a bot. She jumped up then and put her hands on me. Okay, I'm sorry, you are right, we are going too fast. Please don't go, we can work this out, we can find a balance that works for both of us. You're upset right now, let's calm down and really talk about this. I'm sorry, nothing like last night will happen again, trust me, we can work through this. I caved again at that point, I cave a lot. We talked later that day. It was finally the deep conversation we needed to have before we did anything. The conversation she was too distracted to have the first time. It's also the one that led to today. Going to dinner with Madison and another couple, having a vibe, check. Dinner was fine. Madison and Leland vibed for sure. Which I found pretty annoying. I did my best to act normal. I think Kara was doing the same thing. As the night went on, and it appeared like our significant others were way more infatuated with each other, Kara and I started talking a little bit about the elephant in the room. While neither of us just came out and said it, I think the real vibe here is that neither of us necessarily wanted this, and now we're just along for the ride. At least that's how it seemed to me. Before we parted ways we traded numbers. I think I'll try texting her tomorrow just to see how much of this is actually her idea. I only have another day. We're supposed to go over to Abigail's house Saturday night for a play party. Which again, makes me feel like we're rushing into this. We have never done this before, but apparently we're going to join 10 other couples at a swinger party. Madison keeps assuring me it's not what I'm thinking and I don't have to do anything I don't want to, but we should go and see what it's like. She says we're just going to see if this is something we want, and if so we can go ahead with Leland and Kara. I guess I'm going, I'm just stupid enough to keep this failed train rolling. I'm also thinking Kara is really hot, and if Madison keeps pissing me off and fucking around, I may just say fuck it, and find out. Kara F21, still can't believe what happened last night, and despite becoming suddenly single and homeless, I feel amazing. I'm typing this out from a hotel room that I'm staying in with Seth, M27. For a guy I just met on Thursday, I feel like we've been through a lot together. I'll go home to my parents' house tomorrow, but I am not in the mood to explain this all to them tonight. A few weeks ago I posted about my boyfriend, Leland M27, asking me to consider swinging. He did manage to convince me to give it a try. I thought it might just be something he needed to get out of his system. Then he brought up Madison, F26, again. Apparently her and her husband were wanting to add swinging to their open relationship, and Leland thought this would be perfect, because then everyone is new to it. I was so pissed, I knew something was going on between them. I confronted him about that and he totally gaslit me. I didn't realize it at the time. I actually just now am realizing how stupid our relationship is. I mean, it was stupid from the start. Why was a 24-year-old at a high school party? Anyway, I bought into his bullshit again, and agreed to meet with Seth and Madison for dinner. Towards the end of dinner Seth asked me for my phone number because he wanted to talk about this without Leland and Madison. We messaged back and forth a lot on Friday. Leland always told me that Seth and Madison were in this super happy relationship, and the open relationship had just brought them closer together. Seth told me the truth. Madison had given him an ultimatum to open their relationship, and he had almost left her after a first ever date. They weren't living some sort of open marriage fairy tale. We had both noticed at dinner how close Leland and Madison seemed to be. As we talked we made a plan to look through their phones and see if they were actually cheating, and this whole swinging thing was just a ploy to get permission to keep cheating. Madison is smart. Seth told me he found nothing on her phone. The only texts on her phone were totally work-related. Leland is not as smart. It looks like they may have used a messaging app as he had a few on his phone. There weren't any messages, but that was a red flag for me. They did have a few texts that he forgot to erase. It wasn't like 100% obvious what they were talking about though. The exchange read. Leland, what did he say? Madison, I told him we should just go and see what it's like. He agreed. Madison, delete this and switch over. That's all that is there. I asked Seth if this was on Madison's phone and he said, no. At that point I just called him. We talked and decided we needed to test these people out. We both agreed that these two just wanted permission to cheat together. The thing was, neither of us really wanted to lose the relationship. After talking it out, we decided we should give our relationships one more chance. We each asked them if we could wait. We didn't want to go to Abigail's party the next night. Each of them told us we didn't have to do anything, but we told her we were coming. They told us almost the same thing exactly. That Abigail made it seem like it was a big deal to get invited, that we would each be the only new couples. That the other 10 had been doing house parties like this for a while. They told us that if we didn't at least go, we probably wouldn't be invited back if we decided we did like this later on. We were going to go, hoping for them to pick us. I was so nervous all day Saturday, I thought I was going to throw up. I wasn't sure if I should eat before, if there would be food there, if I should not eat at all. I didn't really have a lot of direction on what to wear to something like this. Leland didn't even ask. I just went with a little black dress that was just a touch too short and showed a bit too much cleavage. Luckily, this turned out to be the correct call. I wanted coffee but didn't have any because I was way too nervous, so I just started overhydrating, which made me have to pee every 10 minutes, especially when combined with the nerves. We met Madison and Seth outside of Abigail's house. The house was very nice. Seth and I looked at each other like, here we go. I had not met Abigail before, but she looked amazing. She's 36 and has had 2 kids, and you would never know it. When we arrived we got greeted like it was a dinner party. There were the usual pleasantries, and a quick tour. She showed us they had a pretty good spread of finger foods and lots to drink. I was actually kind of overwhelmed and trying to not stare at the other people. They weren't even doing anything other than having conversations. I don't know what I was expecting. We arrived right when it started. There were going to be a dozen couples here tonight, and I think we made it 5 at this point, which included the hosts. The women were all dressed kinda like I was. This made me feel better. On the tour, Abigail went over some things, but at that time I was totally distracted. I remember her saying the rooms upstairs were set up for private play. There was something about changing the sheets. She introduced us to her husband Brad, then to her boyfriend Jacob. I wish I had paid more attention to the next part, or maybe it was a blessing that I didn't. I know what she said now, but at the time all I heard was, "Thank God for those double doors." Everyone gave a little laugh, me too, even though I didn't know what we were talking about. She was talking about the party adjustments she had made to her first-floor dining room. I got snapped back to reality very quickly. Another couple arrived. That really didn't mean anything, it just drew my attention to Leland. Madison and him were talking. He looked at her and said, "Want to head upstairs?" She nodded and the two of them just started making for the stairs. Seth and I were left standing there staring at them as they headed off together. Leland finally looked back at me and said, "Come on." But then he and Madison disappeared up the stairs, without another look or word. I felt sad, then pissed. I looked at Seth and said, "I guess we got our answer, well we might as well make the most of it." I was angry and absolutely was not going to join them upstairs. Abigail said there were places to play down here too. I thought, I'll find my own space far from those two. Seth was just following best he could as I marched out the other side of the room from the stairs. I didn't even know where I was going. I made a turn, maybe 2, and ended up in this huge room with 2 king-size mattresses pushed together. There was also a large L-shaped sectional in the near corner, a good-sized couch opposite it, and one of those cube shelves with the collapsible baskets along the wall. I didn't even hesitate when I walked in. I just dropped my clothes to the ground without looking back at Seth. The next moment he was pulling his shirt off and gathering up my clothes. He put them all in one of the cubes and turned back to me while fumbling with his belt. I snapped, "OMG, just come here." He figured out how to get his pants off but then just turned and ran back over to the cube shelf and put them in it. I said, "What are you doing?" He responded, "She said you were supposed to use the cubes for our clothes in here. I don't want to be rude." I kind of comedically stunned said, "Rude to who? We're the only people in here." He just said, "More might come in." I remember thinking, who the hell is going to come into this room where there are already 2 people messing around? It's not like we're being discreet. We left the 2 doors wide open. I am not normally this aggressive, but after what Leland pulled, I wasn't holding back. We were enjoying each other when I realized my faux pas in picking this room. A very fit 45-ish-year-old man lays down naked on his back not 5 feet from me. This is immediately followed by a very busty, similarly aged woman climbing on top of him. I totally freaked out for a moment saying, "Oh my God, I am so sorry, is this your room?" The guy just shook his head and got an amused smile on his face. "My dear, this is the group room." Group room. I looked at Seth, "Did you know this was the group room?" He just nodded and said, "Yeah, she said it on the tour." I had a momentary freak out, but quickly composed myself. After a second and being mildly embarrassed, I realized I didn't really care. As I was enjoying the moment with Seth, I kept making eye contact with this older guy, and I kind of liked it. That's when he looked at his wife and they nodded at each other. The next thing he said, "Do you guys want to swap?" I immediately agreed. Seth didn't say a thing. The older guy reached into a small bag next to him and pulled out a condom. Seth noticed and said, "Oh shit, I left mine over in my pants." The old guy said, "Don't worry, I got plenty, just take this one," and handed him one from his pack. I began with this guy, and his wife began with Seth. It was the most insane experience. When I got here tonight I had been with exactly 3 guys in my entire life, and now I've been with 2 more in the span of what was probably 15 or 20 minutes. Another couple joined on the bed and began to play together. I then took a look around only to find 2 more couples were in the room. It was a really intoxicating experience. Seth and I played with this couple for however long, but ultimately ended up finishing with each other. I couldn't believe what I just had done and was feeling kind of proud of myself when I looked up, and in the doorway were Leland and Madison just staring daggers at us. Things got ugly from there, especially once we got back in the car. There was a lot of screaming all the way home. He kept telling me I went too far and that he can't stand to look at me. I totally snapped and called him out on all of his bullshit. I told him I know that all of this was so Madison and he could have a free pass to cheat. He denied it, but I told him about the text and their shady behavior. The way they just went upstairs without a thought. He kept telling me we were supposed to follow them. They didn't check in with us, they didn't check if we were okay. They didn't take anything slow. When I asked if he and Madison had sex, even though we didn't follow them, he said, yes. I screamed, so you really didn't need me there. He started going on about how it wasn't supposed to be like that. That we were all supposed to pay attention to each other, and that Seth and I should have been more attentive to them because they were the ones who brought this up. I was so pissed off it caused a moment of clarity. Why was I with this guy? He is nothing but red flags. I ended the conversation there and packed a bag. I didn't say another word to him and just left. As I walked out of the apartment, I checked my texts. Seth had texted me to check in. It seemed he was having a similar experience with Madison. I let him know what happened with me. He told me he got himself a hotel room. I told him I was heading to my parents' house even though I really didn't want to explain why. He said I could come to his hotel room and I happily accepted. I have been sitting here thinking about everything that has happened. I know Leland will not be part of my future, but otherwise I don't really know what I want to do now. Still, for some reason, I feel more sure of myself than I think I ever have before. My, Seth N27, wife, Madison F26, of 2 years pressured me into an open relationship. That itself almost ended our marriage. Instead of doing damage control on our relationship, she tried to switch us to swinging so she could still sleep with her coworker, Leland M27. Well, we did that, and apparently myself and Leland's now ex-girlfriend Kara, F21, didn't do it right. This caused a huge argument between Madison and I. I went into this argument determined to get the truth out of her one way or another, but that proved to be way easier than I thought it would. She was so pissed off that she just spouted off everything in her anger. Like it was my fault. As I listened to Madison go on and on about what I should have done, I realized all of this was just about her living out whatever fantasy she had created in her head. In her mind, I was also supposed to be focused on her while she was fucking Leland. I am still having a hard time wrapping my mind around how she really saw that going. These two wanted to fuck each other and didn't want to risk their situations to do so. They didn't want Kara and I to take to each other. They thought that we wouldn't have it in us to just go with it. All I was a roadblock. She didn't want to give me up, but also wanted to fuck around. Essentially what she really wanted was a one-sided open relationship. She just couldn't pull it off, and when I got my first taste she also couldn't handle that. I knew as she ranted that this marriage was done. I never asked for all this E&M stuff. She did. Well, she got what she wished for, hope it was worth it. I told her I was divorcing her, left that night, and got myself a hotel room for a few days. I also sent a text to Kara to check in on her. She was having a huge fight with Leland, that ended with her breaking up with him and leaving their apartment. She is getting off a little bit easier than I am. She was not on that lease, as she had moved in with him just months earlier. They weren't married. I am. I talked to a divorce lawyer on Monday, just 2 days after the fallout. She told me she could have papers drawn and served this very week. I got some savings and intend to break our lease and find my own place. Kara ended up staying with me for the 3 days I stayed in the hotel. I can't deny that I am really smitten with her. We spent those 3 days getting to know each other, and I swear I could have talked with her for another 3 days straight. The passion was there too, it wasn't just the overall mood from the party. We couldn't keep our hands off each other. After 3 days I returned to my apartment just to get some stuff. I'll stay with my sister for now. I got a lead on an apartment of my own, but it won't be ready until next weekend. Madison wasn't there when I went to get my stuff, and has not texted me. This is typical behavior, as the cold shoulder is her go-to. It used to drive me crazy, but now I'm thankful for it. It's Friday night, I got word that the divorce papers were served to her today. My lawyer told me she didn't even react. I'm sure she wasn't surprised. It should be easy. We rented, each had our own bank accounts, no kids, and this is a no-fault state. I keep feeling like I should be sad or angry, but I just feel relieved. The last few months have been way too hard. I love her, but what she put me through wasn't fair, and I harbor resentment. I have been texting with Kara pretty much non-stop since she went to her parents' house on Wednesday. I asked her out on a real date for tonight, but she couldn't because of a family thing. We have one planned for tomorrow. I feel like a teenager. I'm so nervous, which makes no sense considering we've had sex several times already. It's just too much time to think. I'm obsessing about where I should take her, what I should wear, should I get a haircut during the day tomorrow. It just feels different, even different than when Madison and I started dating. Anyway, that's the update. It's been a weird few months, and even weirder week. I think it's going my way though. The pain of my marriage has been replaced by excitement for the new. It may just be NRE talking, but at this point I don't think I have anything to lose by letting it ride. I, Leland M29, have been in a relationship with Madison, F28, for almost 2 years. I don't expect to get any sympathy here. I did this to myself. I used to blame everyone else for my problems. I used to be controlling. I used to be a sleazeball. Some people may think I still am these things, but I really try not to be anymore. It took me a really long time to realize I was my problem. To give some background, I used to do some pretty shady shit. Doing this is how I met Kara, F23 now, F18 when we met. I was 24 years old and 2 years out of college. I had done good with the girls in college and racked up a solid body count. However, when I got out of college I wasn't really ready for anything serious, and found the dating scene tougher. I had a good job, and I know I'm a good-looking guy. It wasn't that it was hard to get dates. I just ended up getting dumped or blown off more often. I was immature. I realize that now. The women in my age range that I was trying to date were looking for more. I don't mean they all just wanted to settle down and get married, plenty of them were fine with casual dating. By more, I mean they were looking for someone who didn't get shit drunk whenever possible, play video games like it was their job, or ignore them until he wanted sex. Since this wasn't working for me, I decided to go younger. I'm not proud of it, but I used to occasionally go to parties with my little brother. He was a college freshman, so I would usually just go to his parties, but one night he was going to this party in another town that was actually a high school party. I tagged along, and that is where I met Kara. This was in May, so she was like 2 weeks from her graduation, not that that makes it any better. She was absolutely stunning, still is. We hit it off and I got her snapped that night. She was going to the local university in the fall, and I lived close enough to campus. We spent most of the summer together. I realized I was falling in love with her, and showed that by becoming more jealous and controlling. It was all underhanded. Early on, when she wanted to go to a party or club with friends, and I knew there would be a lot of guys there, I'd do something over the top like get concert tickets or plan a weekend vacation so she wouldn't go. Over time I began playing the victim, or accusing her of things when she had plans. I wanted to ruin her mood. I would impose myself in the things I couldn't get her to opt out of. It was all jealousy and insecurity. When her junior year started, I talked her into moving in with me. This was for me, even though I presented it as being best for her, financially it was, and I focused on that. I had her in a tough spot. She was basically acting as my housekeeper, and I held her financial independence over her head. My only attempt at balancing that out was that I did spoil her in terms of gifts and luxuries. The thing was, while she was always very appreciative, she really wasn't the kind of girl who needed all that. When I had started working at my current job, there was a woman there in an open relationship named Abigail. She was older. I liked to overhear her conversations with some of my other coworkers. Abigail was very open about her lifestyle and not ashamed of it one bit. I would often tell Kara about what I overheard, because it was just so crazy. I would have never gone into something like that. The idea of sharing my girl with someone else was ridiculous. That was until I met Madison. We were flirty from her first day, and that only increased from there. After a week she asked her husband for an open relationship. We wanted to hook up, and we didn't want to lose our significant others. It took me a lot longer to finally approach Kara, and by the time Madison had made the situation with her husband worse, they were no longer doing an open relationship and were going to try swinging. Of course I lied to Kara about this and told her that Madison's open had been wonderful and we should try something like that. The dumbest part of it all is I wasn't really willing to share Kara. The idea of her with another man made me furious, which makes the swinging I asked her to go along with all the dumber. I wanted to have sex with Madison, and was willing to play the dumbest game ever to make it happen. Madison was too, though. She didn't have a lot of respect for her husband Seth. She thought he was a pushover, and when he was going to walk out on their marriage because of the open relationship she forced on him, she had to backtrack and find a way to get what she wanted. That was swinging. She also thought this could bring him back under her thumb. I know this because she has told me so. She was so upset that he was going to leave her, that she was determined to break him. As we went about making this happen, we totally ignored all their pleas, all their requests for time, space, communication, clarity. We gaslit them, pushed them, falsely reassured them. I feel like such an asshole for putting Kara through that, and Seth too, he didn't deserve it either. In the end, Madison and I got our wish, we got permission, and we got the consequences that came with it. We were so delusional. We both really thought we could have our good time, and they wouldn't do anything about it. Neither of us wanted them to be with anyone else. We were making roles for thee, not for me. Our goal was actually to have each other, and them to also pay attention to us. I remember us discussing how we didn't think they'd actually do anything with each other. Even if they did, we planned on asking them to focus on us, like they were going to be okay with that. Then we made the plan. Abigail had mentioned to Madison that she was having a house party in 2 weeks. Madison had been confiding in her, and getting advice from her about open relationships, and then on swinging. Madison told me that could be our chance. She told Abigail about mine and Kara's desire for swinging, a half-truth. Abigail had already invited Madison at this point, to get her and Seth's feet wet. Abigail then agreed to let us come as well. Madison and I were so excited to make this happen at that point. We had the vibe check, which turned out to be a big part of our undoing, as unbeknownst to us, Seth and Kara began talking. Comparing notes would be a better term, they were very much onto us. The day of the party was total tunnel vision for me, I could see the goal, and I was doing everything I could to get there. At the same time, I was such a dick, I totally ignored everything Kara was saying. We got there, we got a tour, and then I immediately looked to take Madison upstairs to the private rooms. She was more than willing to go. We were totally ignoring our partners. They just stood there and watched us walk off. I, in a complete afterthought moment, told Kara to come on. But I really didn't care. As we hit the room, we both talked about how they didn't follow us. We were excited about that, we could do this, and they wouldn't do anything. That's what we thought. We had sex for 20 to 25 minutes, then lingered a bit, talking and laughing, got dressed. I fully expected to find Kara and Seth sitting in the living room sulking. We had talked a bit about damage control with them. They were not there. Our first thought was they took a car and left. Seth did have the keys to his. We went outside only to see both vehicles still there. Then we headed to where the food was, also not there. We heard some fairly large commotion from one of the rooms. Imagine my shock as I walked in to see Kara engaging with others, and having sex with Seth. There were several people in the room they had chosen to play. Madison was just as mind blown. The fallout was massive and immediate. We screamed and yelled at each other the whole way home and through the night. She was calling me out on everything I had pulled over the course of our entire relationship. Seth and Madison were apparently doing the exact same thing. Kara left me the next morning. I was devastated by that. I feel like I became the poster child for, fuck around and find out. Madison called me a week after all this went down. It was also the day after Seth served her with divorce papers. We just had a brief conversation as I was still trying to process losing Kara. Madison was cold, it was kind of weird. She didn't sound mad, or sad, just neutral. Like we were talking about the electric bill being due soon. I should have taken that as my first red flag. I tried just moving on. I remember telling myself, her loss. What a joke, Kara definitely wasn't losing anything, she could do so much better than me. It was about a month later, I had made a fake account and was social media stalking Kara to see what she was doing. I realized her and Seth had become a couple. She photo dumped a month's worth of outings and dates they had been on. The next week at work, Madison, who had largely ignored me that month, was back being flirty and friendly. I kind of called her out on it. She asked if I had seen that Seth and Kara were together. She said she wanted to meet after work that night, and invited me over for dinner. I agreed because I figured why the hell not, might even get laid again. She texted me shortly before I had gotten to her apartment to just let myself in as she was getting ready. When I walked in, she told me to relax for a moment, she would only be another minute. After about 10 I got a text from her asking me to come into her bedroom. As I walked in there she was at the foot of her bed. She immediately started to seduce me. She was largely insatiable that entire night and insisted on me staying over, where she kept up this crazed act for most of the next day. It was when I started to get ready to head home the next afternoon that she told me she wanted us to give this a real shot. She said our so have moved on with each other, we should do the same. We get along, have fun, sex is awesome, why not? Considering the time she had just shown me, I was all in for this. Things were good at first, however, I could tell there was something off. She wanted to document and post on socials everything we did together. I don't just mean trips or dinner dates to nice restaurants. I mean everything. If I got us Taco Bell after a long day, she made it into this sappy romantic post about how we just get each other, or he's a mind reader. She always made it sound like we were just the happiest couple ever. Which really wasn't true. Yes, she was sleeping with me a lot, and always planning these outings. But the conversations were bland, and emotional support was not there. When my childhood cat, the cat still lived with my parents, died at 19, I was understandably sad. I was having a moment at work that day about it. I may have even had a tear or two in my eyes. She was noticeably uncomfortable. When I came over that night she wanted to get takeout, and make a post about it. I was sad, and having a hard time smiling. She got annoyed, told me it was just a cat. I said I love that cat. She rolled her eyes and said, look, just smile for the fucking photo and stop talking about the cat. Do that, I'll take care of you, and you can go be sad the rest of the night, deal? Of course I accepted, but looking back now I realize I should have walked out and never looked back. Things only got weirder from there. We had been together about 6 months at the time. I knew she constantly checked to see what Seth was doing. One day, she told me she had gotten a new phone. She read somewhere that everyone should have 2 phones, one for business and one for personal use. I could understand that if you were a public figure, but we weren't. We were just office drones. I just accepted this as it wasn't worth debating. That night we had sex with all of the lights on. Leaving the table side lamp on wasn't unusual, but she had the overhead light on, the light in the bathroom on, the other lamp on. Afterward she grabbed her new phone and told me to take a picture, and she would send it to me. Then she said, oops. I felt this wave of concern come over me. She told me she accidentally sent the pic to Seth. I got pissed off because how do you accidentally send it, and also, why would you even need his number in your new phone? Even without the resulting blow up from her the next day, I knew she sent that photo as some sort of half-baked idea to make him jealous. To his credit, he didn't take the bait at all. Instead he sent back a video that set her off like no other. It starts as just a selfie shot of him, and he goes, got your pic, glad to see you're having fun, anyway Kara says hi, at this point it pans over, and there's Kara in sportswear looking amazing, and she goes, hi Maddie. I should mention Madison hates being called Maddie, then he pans back, we're having fun too, video pans up to the Kings Island entrance sign, I'm going to go ahead and block this number now, and if you send another picture like this to me I will go to the authorities. Bye. After this, she became increasingly insistent on us moving in together. I didn't want to, but I was also in a deep depression that I was unaware of at the time. I was in a real doom spiral of self-hate. I agreed and I ended up moving in with Madison. She was still trying to present a "we are the perfect couple" vibe to the world. It was bullshit. I just didn't want to be alone. As much as I was unhappy with everything, sitting at my apartment alone was worse. Which is how I ended up where I am today. It was about 2 months after we moved in together I saw on Kara's socials that her and Seth had broken up. Looks like it was mutual and amicable, no real detail. That was over a year ago, and they appear to still be friends. They still interact with each other on socials, commenting on each other's posts, wishing happy birthdays. Seth was even at Kara's graduation celebration with her friends and family. When I told Madison about this, she completely changed. She already wasn't the most loving partner in the world, but she got colder. It was about 2 weeks later she came to me one night and said, I want to be in an open relationship again. This isn't really negotiable. I also don't want a bunch of stupid rules. What the fuck is the point if there's going to be a 100 limitations? You can either be cool with this, make peace with this, or move on. I was so delusional at the time, I actually thought this would be a good thing for me. The thing was I had kind of let myself go. I wasn't working out very much, I was drinking a lot. We ate out way too much. Mentally and emotionally I was putting on a tough stoic front, but on the inside I was dying. I had blown it with Kara and now was replacing that with self-destruction. I agreed to Madison's terms and told her I wanted 2 rules: use protection every time, and no details unless the other person asks for them. She was fine with that. The next day was Friday. She went out after work, and didn't come home until Saturday morning. I asked her where she was and she said, with a guy. It kind of shocked me. I don't know why, it shouldn't have. I'm sure she had him lined up before she ever asked. I just thought, okay, 2 can play this game. I was wrong, this was a very one-sided game. Over the next 3 months our relationship went to shit. She only wanted to have sex with me, right after she got back from doing it with someone else. Which, embarrassingly to admit, I was taking her up on because otherwise I wasn't getting anything. I have no idea if she was seeing multiple people. This is what I assumed, were just the same 1 or 2. I occasionally would ask where she was going or where she was, and she always replied, with a guy. Meanwhile, I was having no luck on the open market. I was struggling at work, I was still drinking, my confidence was shit because I couldn't get a match to save my life. I went back to doing shady shit at this point. I switched my profile to a much younger, fitter picture from a few years earlier. When I got a match with this woman named Evelyn, I was ecstatic. She was poly-ish, and I thought maybe this would be a chance to just have something else for myself. We messaged for about 2 weeks, she was aware of Madison and she told me a little about her long-term partner Anthony. I wasn't honest here either, as I made it seem like Madison and I had this amazing connection. We met for dinner one night. I could tell she was a little skeptical because I didn't quite match my photo. I did my best to cover up the weight difference with the right clothes, but you could still tell some. We were actually having a pretty nice conversation when she asked what got me into opens. I chuckled and said, Madison, but I said it weakly, and she picked up on it. Then I just kind of word vomited about how it started, and about Kara. I wasn't overly forward, but I said enough to kill the vibe. She said, you don't really want to be doing this, do you? I just shook my head. We talked a little bit more where she told me I didn't have to be what I didn't want to be. I said, I know. Then she stared at me for a moment, you also can be what you actually want to be. That hit me like a ton of bricks. I asked if she wanted to go and I'd take her back home. She said I didn't need to, she had messaged Anthony to pick her up and he was probably outside already. I paid the check and thanked her for the night, then headed out ahead of her. I got home and was thinking about what she said. It was true that I didn't like myself. I checked Kara's socials, only to discover at that moment she was in a new relationship. I felt all those same familiar feelings of loss, jealousy, self-pity. I went to bed but couldn't sleep. Madison came rolling in at 2 a.m. trying to initiate with me, which was a clear indicator of what she had done that night. I wasn't interested and rejected her. She got a little pissy but not much. She said, "Wait, you had a date tonight. How did it go? Did it go good? Must have if you don't want any." I said, "It went fine." She in a condescending way said, "Fine. Like you got laid fine, well you got a second date fine." I said, "I don't want to talk about it." She said, "Oh no, you had 2 rules, one of them is no details unless asked, and I'm asking." I begrudgingly replied, "Neither then, we won't be going out again, but it went fine." She laughed, and made an L shape with her hand. "I'm kidding, I had about the opposite night, so we even out." For the first time I pressed for more details. "Yeah, what did you do then?" She said, "I ended up meeting up with this couple I've been talking to. I hadn't ever had a threesome but that changed tonight." I actually couldn't believe that. I had asked her about doing something like that repeatedly since we opened. She always told me that she wasn't interested. I decided to call her out on that. She replied, "When I said I wasn't interested, it meant I wasn't interested in doing that with you." I just walked away from her at that point and headed for the kitchen. She didn't follow, and when I heard the shower turn on I went to lay on the couch. The next day she got up and went out to coffee with a couple of friends. I remember staring in the mirror for what must have been 15 minutes. I was thinking about what Evelyn said, thinking about how quickly Kara moved on from me, thinking about how awful it has been with Madison. I hated who I was looking at in the mirror. I made the decision to take Evelyn's words seriously. I could be the person I wanted to be. That was maybe just a little over a year ago now. I am still living with Madison. I am cordial and polite to her, she is not that way to me. I refuse to sleep with her, which has led her to go out more often, and I'm pretty sure she has at least 2 full-time FWBs. I have been sober for a year now, and have been hitting the gym frequently. I might even say I'm in better shape than I was before. I put myself into work and have been getting noticed. I like taking on a little more than I have to, and focusing on some of the tougher assignments. My ultimate goal is to one day be a VP. I have been attending bi-weekly therapy appointments this whole time. I really had to face a lot of my own behaviors and shame. It's been a long road of self-discovery. I think it will be very beneficial when I hit the dating scene again. I haven't even tried for a relationship during this time. I'm finally ready to move forward with my life. I haven't told Madison any of this. I don't feel I owe her anything. She is a cold and bitter woman who uses people. That might be the toughest part. She expects me to basically serve her, which I have done for a long time just to keep the peace. I am done. I have lined up a new apartment for myself, and will be moving out this week. I'm just going to pack up and leave. I'll leave a note behind. I have managed to find a new job as well. A competitor was looking to fill a director position. I didn't land the position, but they also needed an assistant director, and I was offered that. Either was a pay increase, so I accepted the assistant spot. I also am looking at this as a chance to grow. I don't want to go into it with any bitterness towards whoever got the director spot. Even though they will be my direct boss I'm working with on a daily basis. I'm going to do whatever I can to be of value. Well, this is long enough already. I can't wait to start this new chapter and am finally happy with the person I see in the mirror. Wish me luck. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like and hit that subscribe button to follow Cheating Love Stories for more amazing videos. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss an update. See you in the next one.